Hey friends, I was just thinking you really got shortchanged this week with all the technical difficulties on Monday, and I got these flowers from my friend at my closing show last night, and so it got me thinking. It's like maybe I'll do a little bit something and just at least play a little bit more with some watercolor and flowers, and give you a few more ideas and some helps. Flowers are such a fun place to hang out, so um, uh we'll see how this goes. I'm just gonna play. I have nothing really planned. It was just sort of an impulse thing to record this for you, but yeah, anyway. Here we go. Switch camera and we'll just do this. So hopefully you're all doing well as you are getting to all of the flowers of your own. Let's see this. Look how pretty that is. It's just screaming to be painted. So I know we talked a little bit, but just not enough. There's so many different directions we can go with flowers, but what if, I'm going to try this a few different ways. Sunflowers, just go all over the page with them. What if I didn't draw it, for example? What if I went straight in with a wet on wet? Oops. Ooh, help to have a clean brush. Well, this will help me draw it, right? You have a little tint to it. So just like looking at your flower and getting water down on the page. I like that it's tinted actually, because now you can see where I'm going with it. See that big puddle there? You want too big of a puddle. You want it to be shiny, but not puddled. All right, so as I'm looking, I sort of have an idea of the shape of it. And just some water that I can now go down wet into wet with it. You find my paints. Like this, you can tell this is definitely spur of the moment because I haven't really even thought to pull the paints out. There we go. You're under my computer. All right, so a little mixing area here, and my paint of spritz. Like there's just no wrong ways to explore flowers. So I really want you guys to all be encouraged and have confidence and just go in and try it lots of different ways. That's my thought with this. So yeah, I could have gone in and like we did earlier in the week to actually draw, study it and draw. That's like getting more of a botanical. And like this fuzzy wet into wet with this. And kind of just keeping it really loose, getting some of the characteristics, but not, necessarily counting all the petals. Get your brush to sort of work for you. Keep it like incredibly loose. What if I went in, oops. That's with a warmer yellow. If I got a cool yellow and added in some of the little parts too, a little bit, brighten it up here and there. And what I really want to do is get into that center part next. And this could be a really good start. It can also be, well, not yet, but it could be like keeping it really loose. Well, let's just see where it goes. Plan too much and then you never know. All right, let's get that center dropped in. So see how that's all going to bleed out now? It's getting all those really neat little same markings. Like see how that bleeds there? Now we're getting some of that same effect there. I can drop a little bit more and make it bigger. Kind of fun. I can direct it a little bit if I want a little bit more coming out. And just go with something super loose and not necessarily, I think, yeah. While it's still wet, if I go, so I painted water where it is, right? So now the rest of the paper around it is dry. I can put color. No, it's not very good color. Excuse me. All right, I'm done. All right, I can, I'm gonna mix up some green. I think. Better green than what that was. So if I want to get right up next to, it's gonna bleed into it a little bit. That's a pretty bright green. So now if I really want it to stand out more, maybe I'll darken that green a little bit. If I did that, let that bleed in. This is gonna let it really go kind of more, not abstract, but you know what I mean? It's not articulated quite, right? This is gonna close it in more, but it's I get the idea how I can kind of mingle in that background while it's still wet. If I didn't go quite up to it, like if I just went up, and kept a little tiny white ledge there, then it's not going to blend into it. But when I bring it right to the yellow, it can bleed in. You see it just starting to there. And so that can be a nice thing, having it melt into the background that way. You could also go in and let's see what happens. With a dry brush, I can maybe even articulate some leaf patterns and things like that in here. I could pull out a little bit of color if I wanted to. Not sure if I like that, but you get the idea. You can do whatever you want at this point while it's wet. Here, let me go with some more bluish up here. Watch it trickle in. It's fun just to play with this and just play with some ideas. See, that's where that puddle was, where it was a little bit more wet right there. It really moved in there. You can see this. And again, you can guide it. I could pull some of that out if I wanted more definition of that shape. Let me finish with what's on my brush though first. Carry this around a little bit more. I think the thing with flowers is just to have fun. Honestly, you can get serious about them and really study and get these, photorealistic kind of flowers if that's your goal. Then start moving in that direction. That's fine too. But I think while we're still beginners and figuring out the medium, let yourself play. Let yourself have this kind of fun time. So that I would say is like a good stopping point to let that dry now. I'm gonna pull a little of this just for fun, just to see what happens with the dry brush. If I go in, I can either articulate a little bit more. I feel like that kind of made it blurry. I'd rather have the blue in there than what I just did, taking it out. Get some petal definition, but I can also go in after it dries and get more petal definition like that. Anyway, maybe into here. Yeah, that's probably still too wet. Doesn't matter if you play with this and it doesn't work. It's no big deal. All you've done is learn what you can do and what maybe you should wait for. But you don't know that. You get a feeling for it by trying. It's like everything else. Like you got to give it a try and see what happens. Learning by experience a little bit. See, now I feel like I've separated them too much. It looks kind of cookie cutterish, but it's okay. I can scoop in later and get some more color in that after that dries. I can go now still, but I feel like once it gets to this saturated point, that's when the color starts pushing to the edges and turning into the little blooms and cauliflowers. So if you don't want that happening, then it's best just to sort of be patient, come back to that one, go to a different page, different area on your paper, whatever, and try a different experiment. So that's one way to do my little sunflower. Let's try another one. Let's see. I forget what color I used for that center. Was it that? Yeah, that's for black. Well, it's okay to have a little bit. That very center. Find that more purplish color I was using. Where is it? The darks on this particular palette are hard to distinguish sometimes. Yeah, that's not it. Yep. Must be this one then. Yeah, that's it. There we go. All right, it's more of a purple. I like the purple. So I just start with the center and went on to dry. We'll see what we come up with on this one. And it's just always experimenting. See, I'm just like taking the edge of my brush, I'm going straight down with it instead, like just trying to use your brush for shape. And we talked about that a little bit on Monday. Pull that back in. I have a nice center. Now I can let that dry. That probably be the best thing. So I'm going to, and then I'm going to build flower petals out of that after it dries. And then I'll come over here and try another one. Maybe this one I'll try and I won't let it dry. We'll see what happens. This is the good thing to do. Is like just, experiment. It's a great, great thing. This one, I just want kind of a little. It could certainly go bigger if I wanted it to, I guess. There's a really big center on these. Otherwise, it ends up being a little black-eyed Susan instead. Sunflower. The very center of it is darker. And then it kind of has like lots of little dots. That could be fun to do some granulating thing. If I have to get that texture. Actually, I'm thinking about it. 1 second. Oh, right on there. Something we're gonna do. I forget what week we do that. I think it's been a couple weeks. Anyway, putting salt on it. See if you can see that. Like, yeah, not exactly, but let's see. Let me get the camera down close. So see where, yeah, where it's all sort of collecting together, wherever the salt is, it's going to, the color clings to it and it makes these little patterns in it. And then it'll dry and then you brush the salt off and you're left with this really neat mark making. So flowers are a nice place to try some of these experiments and things. All right. Because yeah, they're so forgiving. You could just go really crazy with them. It's fun to find different ways to make patterns. All right, so now this is still wet on this one. I'm going to try and add these petals into it. I think I'm going to mix up a little different yellow. Get this so you could see it. Yeah, put it on top of the other one. There we go. Use that little mixing area right there. I'll get some of that warmer yellow right there. And I wanted to go a little brighter with that other yellow. And just a touch of orange, I think. I might regret this, but let's find out. Yeah, it's a little touch too much. There we go. Well, let's see what this does. So instead of drawing again, I'm just going to pull these petals out like that, sort of draw them in with my brush. And back to the purple. Let's see, since the purple is still a little bit wet, again, you're going to get some of that bleeding into it, which I'm going to go around. But then these have all these layers in here. So like, I don't know, I feel like it goes like the overlapping, not layers, but overlapping petals. So I'll go back in and do another like layer on top of it, which is great for watercolor. Cause again, you've got this, transparent medium, and you've got these petals, well, when they're in the sunshine, for sure, you see the transparency of them. And you want them all, like, you don't want them perfect. So see how they're just kind of, each petal isn't identical. So sometimes looking at an actual flower, like when I'm doing, I can notice I'm not getting them exactly like they are, but I am getting, noticing. It's like, oh, that one kind of goes at a dip, and just noticing the different petals. So it keeps me from making them all the same and kind of, out of my head where they're perfect. Now, I can maybe add a little bit more of the brighter yellow to my mix. And I can go around again and get another layer of these in. Sort of overlap. And some of them wind around like in goofy ways. Yeah. Right. I have to do another. I do one. Like, don't forget, like, you of course hold the flowers at different angles. Like I've been looking straight down at these, but what about if we got more of a view from the side where you get, oh, and you're not seeing that because it's down here. There we go. Anyway, view from the side where you've got the angle of that instead. Center. I'm gonna go right into this one that I'm letting dry, but oh well, let's go for it. And here the petals go up, right, on this side, and let some of that purple dip into it. And as they're coming here, and you're getting more of the sort of foreshortening, actually the petal goes up into that a bit. And then comes down underneath and up. This one's sort of expressive. That's what we'll call it. I could need a little bit more. Something right here. It's definitely a foreshortened one. So it's like you can see it, but like it's coming right at you. I think what will help with this one, here, let's fix that or not. These things happen. There you go. Would be to get some of that greenery in. Let's see. There we go. Hanging down, and then the stems coming down from that. So you can exaggerate it. Oops, yeah. You can't even see what I did, but I swooped out there with it. You do a little curvy there, little dry brush. Anyway, certainly can work with this if I want to push it further. I can lift a little bit to get some of the, maybe some of the lines even. on the petals if you wanted to start distinguishing things, drawing. I just leave that for now. Let me see how this one's doing. I think that's still really wet. Do what I'm not supposed to do. Yeah, it is. I put a lot of that purple in. It's going to be a bit before that dries, so I could show you the difference between letting it bleed and not. But I think it'll be worth the wait. So let's see. This one is drying out here. So if you had this and you say you wanted to get background in, or have something else going around it, just want to show you what that's going to look like. Let me see. These have a good green, maybe. All right, I'm going to glaze over and around a little bit. So if I went around this, for example, it's going to keep its shape now. It's not going to bleed into it. I don't know if you can see that too well, but if I glazed over it, which I will do just for fun right there, boom, they're still gonna, you see them through it, but it's not moving anywhere. So, see if that's dry. And if you do that, you want to restore your petals, just take a dry brush and bring them back. But the point is that, you know, at this point, the point is at this point, I can pretty safely come in and paint background into this. I can maybe get a lot of green in there. Maybe I want to go with something totally different. Maybe you know, and it's fun to try different things just to see, you know, if you're not doing something realistic. I mean, our tendency is like, yeah, we'll go green and pretend it's all grass and, or not grass, leaves and foliage and stuff around it. But what if, I don't know, I think, what if it was sort of like a orangey color instead? What would that look like? Could be fun. Try that up here. And you can leave white too, just that kind of Anna Mason one. Or you could put other flowers next to it. It's just showing what you can do. So see how it's glazing over a little bit. It's changing some of that color of the petals. You can fix that. You can take a dry brush again, pick that up, restore it to the yellow. And it's really not going to activate the paint too much. I mean, you can't. If you put water down on it, it will activate, but I can pick up what I just put down. But since it was already dry, or pretty much dry, yeah, it was very dry. That way, this wasn't moving anything. Let's see what other colors look good next to it. It's fun just to try different colors just to see, you know, what would it be? What if I was going with blues instead? Like if it was in some blue sky or something around it. What would that look like next to it? So kind of fun. See what you can do. Yeah, this is making me want to go back into this one and start fixing it up. I think I will. Just to see, we can brighten up some of the tips of the flowers. If you get like a brighter yellow, just imagine where the sun might be hitting it. Let me pull those up a little larger. Maybe here where they're coming at you in foreshortening. You get another little bit of paint right there. And what if, get some of that. Yeah, I keep getting too much orange on my brush. Here, I'm gonna pop it off right over here. Just get rid of that. Look how bright that is. Yeah, fun though. But just wanted a little, when you're adding color, and it is like, I think I've told you before, it's like salt, you know, just add a little bit at a time. So let's see, some more over here. Yeah, that's better. I just wanted sort of a yellow orange, so I wanted more yellow than orange. All right, so now let's see. I feel like oh, that's still wet there. Yeah, this ends up being a little wet on wet because it's still kind of damp. Yeah, swatch that color out though. So isn't that pretty? Oh, it's a beautiful color. Here, let me try it on here. I think this part's dry enough. I want you to see how when I glaze this over the top of that, yeah, see how perfect that is? So it will stay, so you keep this really neat mark making here. And now I can kind of pull that out. Oh yeah, see a little bit though did activate. It got on my brush right there and pulled it. Yeah, that's why we wait until it completely dries. But I just wanted to give you the idea of that. And I don't want this video to go on forever, but mainly just to give you a little more playtime and a few more ideas on how to handle this. It's honestly, I'll show you a little more. Flowers can they're so much fun. They can also be so frustrating. So if you're really trying for photorealism kind of idea of flowers, it's going to take time. It's going to take lots and lots of layers. But sometimes some of the paintings that we looked at before, the looser flowers, they're more fun. They're more fun to make. They're you know, you can just be creative and play and let yourself have that freedom in knowing you're just experimenting. If you just give yourself that mindset, I'm just playing, I'm just experimenting. This is a practice piece. And maybe I'll have a flower that comes out. You know what you can do after if the rest are, a mess or whatever. You can cut out the ones you like. You can paste them onto cards. You can do whatever you want with them. Yeah. And nobody cares. It's your practice. This is how we learn. I'll put a little darker on there. Well, I can. That's going to accentuate it. You can maybe even go like some of this underneath part, like by the leaves. Probably choose to do that in a darker green, not the purple, but it is giving it a nice shadow under there. So if you are like going more for like I really want dimension, you can certainly layer in a different color than the green just to go to that and then glaze over more green. Well, after that dries, so I won't do it now. I won't touch it. Anyway, these are a few places to play. Once this dries, which it almost is, if you take the salt off too soon, you risk moving put the flower back in, moving the pattern that it's making, but see, you can see that. I'm just going to get one little piece off so you can see underneath. There we go. So see where that got, it just all collected together and made that little mark. But when the rest of them are all dry, then you just brush it and that's better. Anyway, that, yeah, hopefully that gives you a few more ideas just to play. And, I don't know, whatever flower you have, grab a real flower and go for it, because you just never know, what you can make of it. And it's fun just to look and notice things about it, to really study it. But then once you do that, that's where the truth is. Once it goes abstract or a little looser, if you have a kernel of truth in, bring the flower back out, in what you're actually seeing. If you're really studying this and you notice this part or the way that, like what we said about how that purple is coming up, you're really getting that part, then you've got this truth in your painting and the rest can kind of go weird. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right, I was going to go back into that wet on wet. Yeah, no, that's still damp. So that was a lot on the wet on wet. So you wait for that to dry, then you can go back in. Well, you know what? I'm going to just a teeny bit because I'm going to go have dinner in a minute, but I want to just make sure I get this. So if I wanted to go back in, say here and add, let's color you're going to see. Add a little bit more color to parts of it. I'll get some orange. You can, draw some of those lines in. You can start kind of articulating a bit more. I can go in even with that purple and brush. You can go back with a different type of brush too. I didn't even just been using the flat, but if I went in with skinny little brush like that, ooh, that wasn't a good thing to do. That's right where I just put that wet. That wasn't smart. But I was just going to show you, like, if I want to put a few more of these dot thingies in where it's meeting there, accentuate that a little bit more. Where it already did that, but I want to liven it up. Not what I just did there. So let's fix it or try. And see. First I'll get dry brush and see what I can pick up of it, and then I'll go back in. And again, there we go. If you do something like that, know that we all do. It's not a big deal. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just see what you can do. See, either make something good out of it, or, push it along, direct the path, take a flat one and just scooch it back. All right, that should do. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Again, if you made it through the Zoom recording from Monday, yeah, again, apologies that it was such a so many technical errors. I ended up like shutting down my computer and starting it again. I think the whole thing was on the verge of crashing, but anyway, it's all working again today. So hopefully it'll stay working for Monday, and I will see you then. And holler if you have any problems, questions, anything at all, let me know. Okay, good luck with it. Just have fun. Have a good time. Flowers are fun. All right. Bye, everybody.